What is up, everyone? Welcome back to French Bread's Dark Souls 3 lore run. I am French Bread, or Chris if you prefer, and we are exactly where we left off last time in the Catacombs of Carthus, having bested Night Slayer Tsorg and reattuned a more useful pyromancy for ourselves. Just like that, the rat denies me my buff. So, exploring off to the side now, you can see an old enemy type making its return. The infamous bone wheel skeletons. However, unlike their appearance in previous games, you'll find they're actually a lot more tame in Dark Souls 3. I don't believe that's a complaint. It does suck. There's all the slimes we have to deal with at the same time. Thankfully we're decently well stocked up on fire bombs. Ha! Apparently a bone wheel snuck by me. Oh, but he does not like the Ultra Great Sword. These guys used to have the capacity to take you out basically in a single attack, so to speak. It was more like they'd roll into you and hit you multiple times before you really had a chance to react. And if you didn't have enough vitality, that might be it for you. Now, they just don't do as much. They don't do as much damage as they used to. They're not as fast as they used to be. They're just all around lower key than they were in Dark Souls 1, and even really than they were in Dark Souls 2. And this is basically one of two places in the entire game that we're going to run into them. And, you know, I kind of question why they even bothered to bring them back at all, to be honest. They don't serve much of a purpose other than to be a bit of a callback enemy. Like, their presence here doesn't really add anything to this particular encounter. It doesn't really speed it up, slow it down. They're just there. They're to be taken out in 2 or 3 hits regardless of what weapon you use, so I don't know if I'd call that a... I don't know if it's really a pure criticism so much as it is I'm not entirely sure if there was any good reason to bring them back. Maybe they didn't need one, but it just felt underutilized. I think that's the route I'm going to go with this. I feel like the bone wheel skeletons have the potential to create very challenging encounters, and they just do not, in any of their appearances in Dark Souls 3, pose any kind of challenge. They're not really situated in any particularly creative way, so I think that's my real problem with it, is I don't really care that they're here, I just want you to do something with them. As you saw at the end of the path there, we picked up a new... we're good. Another Carthus ring, but we're gonna hold off on taking a look at that right away. These cheeky Carthus skeletons. They drop kukris, they drop titanite, they can also drop their shodol or shotol or however you pronounce it. It's actually a pretty decent pretty decent weapon. It's a... Oops. like most... like most of the Karthus weapons, really. I don't think it's as good as the Karthus curved sword. I don't think it does nearly as much damage. But it has, you know, that passive ability to sneak around shields with a strong attack, which is sort of interesting. And it looks real cool. And definitely recommend it if you were doing a dexterity or luck build. In the event that you preferred not to use the Karthus curved sword, which was just kind of better. I hate to say. Not really. I love the Karthus curved sword, but you know what I mean. We like to have a variety of options to choose from, but the fact remains that some choices are just... It went a bit farther than I thought. Some choices are just more effective than others. Just more Titanite. I have to think of like something to use all this use with all this Titanite. So right here we have another, I don't know, necromancer. They feel kind of half-baked to me to be considered proper necromancers. They're just skeletons with a undead settlement worker hat on. They don't have the pomp and circumstance that the necromancers had in either Dark Souls 1 or 2. But we've taken care of that irritating ball trap. For some reason a small crab was inside the center of it. Don't ask me what's going on with that. Some kind of esoteric FromSoft humor that I don't quite get, I'm sure. So let's head down here. Counter ourselves Crystal Lizard that drops a fire gem. Thanks, I guess. Now, here's a good... here's an awesome picture of things to come. And I do note that this particular Karthus skeleton looks to have already applied some of that rouge to his weapon. Bye-bye. Nothing really special there, but it's kind of cool to see those items in use. Instead of just being told they're used, we actually see them being used. You saw the note there. Suspending bridge is wearing thin. If I remember anything about Dark Souls and Catacombs, it's never trust a bridge. As you can see now, we've opened up a shortcut, or shorter route from the bonfire to this area, just in case we need it. I sure hope we don't, but I don't imagine all those skeleton bodies are going to remain lying patiently on the ground forever. So far, so good. Let's talk to Henri, who has changed locations in the in-between episodes.
Oh, hello. We meet again. Have you seen Horace anywhere? Oh, yes, I see. I've searched high and low, with no luck. Perhaps he's left the catacombs. Oh, Horace. Where have you run off to? Oh, Horace. Where have you run off to? Have you abandoned me? No. What a horrible thought.
So Henri's beginning to doubt, beginning to despair just a little bit here. Being separated for however much time from his companion. And again, it seems like Henri and Horace have a connection that goes a little bit, perhaps a little bit deeper than simply traveling companions. And I'm not implying anything romantic or anything of that nature. Maybe. I don't know. But there's a different sort of connection going on there, but we're not going to have a chance to fully explore it until later. So yes, I know there is a path we can take down here, but we wouldn't want to we wouldn't want to spoil FromSoft's time and deny them us crossing that bridge, would we? But before I do all that, maybe you've already noticed... Bah! Humbug. You've already noticed, but... Huh. Right beneath Henri's nose. Looks a lot like Horace to me. We'll have to find some way to get there, won't we? Alright, let's do this. As we begin to cross the bridge. Oh yes, yes indeed. A party's getting started. Look at how many of them there still are over there. Very cool sequence. One of my favorite little individual moments from the game, really. Such a classic adventure movie trope, right? You're fleeing a horde of hostiles across a rickety old bridge. You get to the end, you cut the rope and send them all plummeting to their doom. Or onto Horace's head, as the case may be. Let's progress a little bit farther towards this intimidating looking hallway. Not 100% sure, but I feel like the symbols here on the wall are echoed by the symbols on the Karthus shield. I'll have to double check that when I inevitably farm for it. But I do get that impression. Also some very cool design work on these pillars, these supports here. I don't know if they're indicative of anything in particular. Push back the doors and we enter a very boss room looking room. Alright? It seems like an amazing room for a boss fight. All these kind of pillars to put between yourself and the enemy, but at the same time all these breakables, which never mind. Apparently in this area all the covered things don't actually contain the pursuers within them, which is kinda lame, but understandable given what we eventually encounter. Over here we've got another door, but it doesn't even give us the opportunity to be denied by a does not open from this side message. Instead, all we have is this curious altar, which in point of fact I think is the same style of altar we found that first or second Estus shard on in the high wall. Not a very hopeful item resting on this one, though, is it? A crowned skull chalice of sorts. Touch the goblet. Nothing poor could come of this decision, could it? And suddenly we are surrounded by dark, unsoiled ground, but we've shown up on some kind of incline, some sort of slope. We're walled in, and for us is seemingly nothing but pitch blackness. And we have this very baity looking item ahead. What's all this now? Oh. Alright then. High Lord Wolnir. Gonna cut to the chase a little bit here and demonstrate precisely how you're supposed to deal with Wolnir. Those glowing bands. Are his weak spot, but holy shit, is that not awesome? Whoa! That is an incredible looking sword. Oh! Perhaps I should have moved to dodge. Watch out! You don't want to get caught when something bad happens with that sword, do we? He'll break another bracelet, put us into uncomfortable territory. Well, that was sort of a lame-ass way to die. We didn't even see the effect itself that was killing us. Obviously, I believe it's related to the dark mist or vapor breath, if you will, that Wolnir was releasing, but I would have expected at least a visual effect to demonstrate to us that we are in a dangerous mist, but you didn't get anything like that. Just kinda dunked on us. So that's one criticism of this fight I'm gonna have to levy. It's not, in my opinion, you can't do this to me forever, you bastard skeleton. Can make me regret my cockiness, though, can't he? Let's reevaluate. how we're approaching this, shall we? And make extra damn sure we don't lose however many souls I happen to have there. Truth be told, I wasn't paying attention. Wolnir is typically a critically easy boss to deal with, but I was specifically not really going all out on him because I wanted to show some of his moves to you, dear viewer. You know, I opened this shortcut. You'd think I'd remember it. This time, we are not going to be quite so kind. We saw him take out his sword. Honestly, that's the coolest thing he does. You can also summon hordes of skeletons to aid him, very much like Nito, Gravelord Nito. But other than that, it's a lot of swinging his hands around, breathing out toxic mist, and basically trying to kill us through those means. The mist is by far the most dangerous thing he's got going. And his most dangerous way of utilizing it is actually simply charging forward. Won't be difficult, Wolnir. Just accept this. Let's immediately go to beating up on his other arm. Honestly, when he's doing that attack, I think we're safest right by him. But once you take out the second band, it is time to retreat. Full-on retreat. Because in my experience, the very next thing he's going to do is advance forward like this, regardless of where you happen to be, personally. And when he does that, he basically gets you caught in that miasma that's flowing off of him, and you will die pretty close to instantly. Which ain't no fun. He's using his skeleton summoning ability here. Too damn bad, though. We've had enough of you. Get out of here. Oh, there. And there we go, High Lord Wolnir taken care of. Seems like we destroyed Wolnir himself, but all that dark, that abyss-like substance was merely returned to the goblet without his soul this time. Up here, looks like the roots of a great tree. And is that some sort of bell underneath? I wonder if this is making reference to how Lorerun was set up. That's a huge shot in the dark. Just, it's the first thing I'm reminded of by seeing that imagery. So, let's head on back to Firelink so we can get our bearings once again and check out this soul and the things we can derive from it. A very gimmicky boss fight, Wolnir, but still pretty cool. In terms of appearance, Wolnir is one of the coolest looking bosses in the game, even though he's a complete pushover when it comes to fighting him. So let's go through the items we've gotten so far. Starting with the most boring, probably. Yellow bug pellet. Medicinal pellet made from crushed insects. The yellow type temporarily boosts lightning damage absorption. The Grave Wardens of Karthus use these to repel a great sandworm. The worm tumbled into the catacombs and proceeded to dominate its new home in the smoldering lake. I take it back. That's very interesting, isn't it? A great sandworm. Boy, that does confuse matters, doesn't it? How did a sandworm end up in the catacombs unless it was brought here by Wolnir and the people of Karthus? I mean, at that point there's two options, right? Either Karthus was at one point was one past iteration of this land we're in now, or they brought it here and it tumbled into the catacombs. I don't know. It's very interesting, and it explains an enemy that previously, well, to some degree explains an enemy that didn't have really any explanation to it previously. You will doubtless from me saying that, you'll understand that we will be encountering this sandworm a bit later in the playthrough, or sooner. I don't know. Depends on how long we run here. Soul of High Lord Wolnir. Lord Wolnir of Karthus sentenced countless souls to gruesome deaths, keen to outlive them all. So a conquering king who wants immortality. He's not the most original, is he? We also got ourselves a dark gem. A gem of infused titanite, born of disembodied humanity. Dark weapons inflict dark damage and scale with intelligence and faith. Different from the deep gem, which refers to a darkness that lies beyond human ken. So perhaps the dark and the abyss are related to humanity and the dark soul, but the deep is related to something even more primal? It does seem to separate itself on some level from humans, whereas dark has always been fairly tied up in, mankind or humanity. Grave Warden Pyromancy Tome. A pyromancy tome of the Grave Warden from the Karthus catacombs. Give to the Pyromancer Master to learn Black Flame sorceries. High Lord Wolnir of Karthus succumbed to the abyss, but the Pyromancer later became a Grave Warden and discovered the Black Flame. So that's interesting. We encountered Black Flame pyromancies in the Artorias of the Abyss DLC, which introduced dark sorceries and pyromancies in general. And it appears that these... Oops, sorry about that. Appears that these sorceries were discovered by Wolnir. Um, discovered by Wolnir after having succumbed to the Abyss and become a Grave Warden. That's interesting, but I'm not going to go into it until we read a few more items. Grave Warden's Ashes. Umbral Ash of the Grave Warden of the Catacombs of Karthus. With this, the Shrine Handmaid will prepare new items. The old man began as a squire, carrying his master's accoutrements. He ended his days a grave warden and carried them still. I don't know if this is referring to a entity, perhaps someone who served Wolnir, or more unlikely, but possible that this is an insight into Wolnir before he became a High Lord. I guess that's up for interpretation. And this ash is gripping quite clearly a kukri. We snapped up a falchion. I don't think it has much to say. Standard curved sword and widely used slashing weapon. Yeah. No particular information there at all. I don't think we acquired any armor. We did get a new ring. Karthus Blood Ring. Ring worn by warriors of the Sand Kingdom Karthus. Boosts rolling invincibility at the cost of defense. The sword technique of Karthus allows for fluid movement with a curved sword. This is actually... yeah, this is the same description as on the Milk Ring, with the exception of the effect. So you get extra iframes for rolling, but you take more damage if you attempt to wear it. Very high risk, possibly high reward system. Alright, that is the items we have. Let's try to hand in this tome to Cornix. Because who doesn't want more pyromancies?
Ah, there you are, unkindled one. I am pleased to have a pupil as dedicated as you. I'm afraid I cannot accept this. This pyromancy tome is dark and delves into the depths of men where an untouchable flame resides. I cannot comprehend this myself, let alone teach it to you. It is a spell forbidden in the Great Swamp, and nearly everywhere else too. Only one terribly afflicted or burdened by deep sorrow could begin to understand this.
So Cornix will have nothing to do with the Grave Warden pyromancy tome. And smartly, unlike Arena, no offense, he is wise enough not to accept it because of that knowledge that it's of how dangerous the knowledge is what I want to say. We'll have to hold on to this tome for now and give it to another NPC we'll encounter later in order to learn anything from it. Bit of a tease, but so it goes. I wonder if he has anything.
Ah, you found it. This segment.
Nah, nothing new.
Do not be What is it?
That's fine. That's fine. Now let's check out what we can get out of Wolnir's ever so high soul.
Aha, so.
Right away, we can see the Black Serpent Pyromancy. Pyromancy discovered from the Abyss by High Lord Wolnir that inspired the black arts of the Grave Wardens. Releases undulating black flames that trace the ground. Be it sorcery or pyromancy, all techniques that infringe upon humanity lead to the same place. That is to say, They all seek a will of their own. It requires 15 intelligence and 15 faith to wield. We can also forge that awesome sword of his, Wolnir's Holy Sword. A holy sword eroded by the abyss. When Wolnir fell to the abyss, he was gripped by a fear of true darkness, and pleaded to the gods for the first time. This holy sword, together with 3 armlets stripped from the corpses of clerics, gave him some semblance of comfort. So, Wolnir, I suspect through his pursuits as a pyromancer, ended up getting too close to the abyss and was tainted by it, and fearing its effects, he attempted to wield, both a holy sword and adorn himself with holy armlets in order to possibly preserve his sanity or preserve his recognizably human essence. But it appears that in the end it provided only a semblance of comfort rather than any true protection. The sword itself, whatever it once was, has been greatly eroded by the abyss, and it looks like the core of the sword has been exposed through this erosion. So, this is a weapon requiring faith, strength, dexterity. I don't think we'll be using it, so if we get anything out of Wolnir's soul, I believe it'll be this pyromancy. But there's a lot of interesting things to speculate on when it comes to Wolnir. Actually, now I kind of want to go back up there. The timeline, as far as we can piece it together, is that he was a High Lord of the Sand Kingdom of Karthus. And also, we assume, a kind of accomplished pyromancer. But at some point, he succumbed to the abyss. He possibly, in his pursuit to outlive everyone else, he turned to dark arts. It doesn't seem unreasonable. But once having so succumbed, he instead became a grave warden. What was the item in particular that referred to that? Not his soul, which is surprisingly bereft of much detail. Was it the tome? Yeah. Became a grave warden and discovered the black flame. I'm going to assume he rediscovered the black flame, because I don't get the impression that he predates our adventure in Dark Souls 1, but you never know. Pyromancy of the Grave Warden from the Karthus Catacombs. Some of the way it's phrased, these items, make me wonder if Wolnir was or is related to the Grave Wardens we encounter in Dark Souls 2, who have a very strong and clear thematic connection with Nito, one of the original holders of a Lord's Soul and the so-called First of the Dead. And Nito was basically a shambling collection of skeletons who had a similar appearance, really, to Wolnir himself. He had the one primary skeleton head, but you also saw an entire wreath of skeletal figures around his shoulders and neck. He also, gameplay-wise, he also had that ability to summon hordes of skeletons to attack you, but that he is also quite capable of killing with his area of effect attack, that dark miasma, which, again, is very similar to the abilities of Nito. So I have to wonder if Wolnir somehow... I guess there's one possibility is what I'm trying to get at. One possibility is that maybe Wolnir was mistaken for or passed himself off as Nito and established the Grave Wardens and whatever was going on with the Mil Finito and the Finito in Dark Souls 2. As always, my grasp of that lore is somewhat shakier than it is Dark Souls 1. So I may be forgetting something that clearly makes this not possible, but I think it's worth considering that Wolnir possibly had some sort of hand in the Grave Wardens from that game as well.
Treat the function.
Alrighty. We beat up on Wolnir. We've unlocked the way forward. But I am still curious about that area we saw with Horus and how to get there. Just as curious, actually, as I am about the smoldering lake and sandworm described in the yellow bug pellet item. It says that the worm tumbled into the catacombs and found a new home in the smoldering lake, so we could assume the two are connected somehow. We're going to get that into the next episode, but before we depart, let's actually hand off these ashes to our shrine handmaid.
Gracious, let Iona.
As usual, she has nothing unique to say about them. What do we have here that we didn't have before? Kukri for one, and I believe it also unlocks the Karthus Rouge. So now we can get ourselves at however many Kukris as we want in supply. Doesn't appear to grant any extra weapons. We do have new armors available. I don't think these are because of... I don't think we got these from the ashes so much as I think we got this one for beating Wolnir and these for beating the Undead Legion. We will read those next time, though. For now, though, I'm going to sign off. I think in between episodes, so long as no NPCs show up to give me a hard time, I'm going to level us up. I'm going to see about switching up our equipment again, switching up our fashion again, and try something a little different. Till then, thank you for watching, and I hope you'll join me for the next episode. See you later, guys.